Hi, everyone. Welcome to Radiant Living, Inspiring Humanity to Thrive. I'm your host, Marisa B. And today I have with me Sarita Elisabeth Buer. I hope I said your name right. She's a podcast host and a manifestation coach. And today we're here speaking about gratitude, thankfulness, and blessings. Hi, Sarita. Thank you so much for coming.
Hi, thank you so much, Marissa, for having me. I'm very excited.
I am too, because this is a fabulous topic and so on target for Thanksgiving or giving thanks that's coming up this week. First of all, can you tell me a little bit about how you got started on this path?
Sure, I have a very interesting story that kind of combined in around like 3 years or so. So I was working in a corporate environment for about 15 some years in insurance. And I felt like this call or need to do something bigger with my life. And I was also struggling with some health issues. And so one day I asked myself, do I really want to be doing this for the rest of my life? And I realized that question was a lot bigger than just that moment. And so not only did I end up leaving the corporate environment of about 15 years, I also shortly after that, because that was just around COVID time, so 2019, 2020, I ended up leaving my 8 year relationship. I realized that I'd had a lot of money struggles, so I ended up filing bankruptcy. And during all that time, I had alcohol dependency that was happening. So there's just a lot going on in a matter of a very short amount of time. And I turned to inner work and spirituality and learned a little bit more about the law of attraction, law of assumption in the manifestation world around 2019. And it was through utilizing that just for myself and sharing my journey with my healing coming through and working through heartbreak and bankruptcy and all these different things that I've worked through. There were people that started to come to me and start asking me questions around self-love and manifestation and goal setting and just really reversing my life because they saw how it was
Yes.
before and how it is now. And so it inspired me to become a manifestation coach after going through my own personal transformation.
And that's exactly why I wanted to have you on the show to speak in the week of, I should say, on the week of Thanksgiving, because you have turned your life so completely around. And I know that you speak a lot about gratitude and you speak a lot about manifestation, but manifestation through thankfulness and gratitude. And I wanted to speak a little bit about that today. Can you explain what you mean by that? The gratitude and the thankfulness, how that plays a part in abundance and manifestation.
Yes, definitely. So the vibration of gratitude. So we're all, if we were to take, let's just go real science, like real quick. If we were to take like a strand of hair and we put it under a mega microscope and we were to look at it and break it down, our hair is made up of atoms and atoms are vibrating. So that's just one strand of us or a piece of us. So imagine the larger portion of us is a vibrational being. So we are all vibrating. Everything that you see around you is vibrating at a certain frequency. And so gratitude is the highest level of vibrational frequency that we can experience as humans. And we can experience that by being present with ourselves in that moment to be grateful what it is that we have in our environment, basically. So, what we are seeing in front of us is a projection of what is inside of us. So, that's a little bit more science, but we can utilize the frequency of vibration, of gratitude vibration, to get to a state that can actually help us become a version of ourselves that already has that manifestation or that thing that we really desire, or we can be grateful as well for the things that we have in our life. So, like I said, it's really about the vibrational frequency and putting out and emitting that gratitude will assist with the manifestation practice and help us just be in a more um, desired state of being.
Now, isn't it all true? It's all about vibration, right? I mean, we can see it. We may not necessarily believe everything we hear, but we know inside our body that if we're happy, we're grateful, we expand, we shine, right? And if we're upset, saddened, we become miserable. We actually make ourselves miserable, and we shrink, and we cave in. And so, of course, we want to be open and expanded. I mean, who doesn't want to be right, open, expanded, and shining outward rather than caving in on ourselves? And we don't necessarily have to um, believe everything about abundance and manifestation. I know there are certain people that say things about it, that life can't be all about getting what you want, and about always being abundant. And, that's their belief system. But we can make sure that we feel well and we feel good, and with that, we're completely grateful for what we do have. Right. I mean, I have a gratitude journal, and I have and it's not an abundance journal. It's more like an intentions journal. And I was doing it more often when I was in a group, and then I stopped doing it for a while, and then I've gone back to it. And just that repetition of taking the time to make sure that I record what I'm grateful for and that I can reflect upon it while I'm writing it down, I find that it's so much better for me personally. Do you have any type of personal um, types of journal writing or so forth that you do in addition to coaching people for manifestation? And I'm sure that you have techniques for your clients, but for yourself personally.
Yes, I do. And I love that you brought that up, that gratitude isn't a specifically for a religious practice or even a spiritual practice, regardless of your religious beliefs or spiritual beliefs. Gratitude in general is such a great practice to have as a human being experiencing this reality. And yes, for myself, my gratitude practice has actually transformed and changed as I've transformed and changed. So I used to, when I first was starting with my gratitude practice, and I started hearing about this in the entrepreneurial world when I stepped into it a little less than a decade ago. And I noticed a lot of people that were saying, "Oh, I have a gratitude journal and a gratitude practice." And so for me, I started to, in the morning, write down what are the things that I'm grateful for. And then in the evening, reflecting on the day, what it was that I was grateful for. And although I still journal and I still do my journaling practices to unpack and uncover things that are coming forth during the day, emotions and things like that, my gratitude practice has actually changed and transformed a little bit because now instead of having it specifically be in the morning and specifically be at night, I've intertwined it around in the day. So in the moment, when I'm maybe taking a walk outside, or I'm even spending time with friends, I take a quick moment aside and I just thank God, I thank universe, I thank higher power. I say, thank you so much for this experience that I'm having, these emotions I'm having, this like this what I'm getting to experience. Thank you for this. I want more of this. And then of course, even for the times that can be maybe more challenging, going through like deeper seated emotions, like quote unquote ugly emotions that come up, things that are just uncomfortable. Even taking a moment at that time to give gratitude. Thank you for allowing this to come forth so I can see it. I can be a gentle observer of it. So my gratitude practice has really been in like moments that I acknowledge and recognize that are times that I can be grateful. And of course, going back to the abundance thing, when we say things like, thank you so much, God, universe, powers, you can substitute whatever word you want for this moment, more of this, please. It literally signals to higher entity, like, this is what I like. This is what I'm happy with. This is what I desire. More abundance, please.
And now you mentioned something about thankful. I want to talk a little bit about that, the difference between thankfulness and gratefulness. Is there a difference? And what do you think?
I believe, I really think those two words can be intertwined. Thankfulness and gratitude. Thankfulness, I almost feel like, is a way that we would say thankful for possibly the things that we've already received.
Hmm.
So maybe tangible. And I'm just kind of thinking out loud here. So thankful,
Hmm.
being thankful for the things that we've already received so that are tangible within our reality, like
Hmm.
our family, the maybe the career we have. And then gratitude is I feel like it's more of like a vibrational state and also an embodiment practice as well.
Hmm.
Like, so basically becoming that
Yes.
self
Be
that
grateful.
is
Yeah.
right, that is already receiving maybe the thing that we don't
Hmm.
necessarily have in our tangible reality, but we are already embodying that person that truly believes that we are worth having it.
Hmm. Yeah, I have to agree with you that that they can be
I just
interchangeable,
came
but
up,
there's a
that just got
small
channeled.
there's a small nuance. It's true. It's almost walking. Yes, we're thankful for that which we have been given, but we're walking in gratitude or taking gratitude
Yes,
along with us or attempting to walk hand in hand with gratitude on a daily basis. I think that you're
I
right
love
in
that.
that respect. Um, and what about blessings? How do you feel about blessings? I know some people like to use that word, other people do not. How do you see blessings in all of this, especially with abundance and manifestation?
Right. And, the interesting thing about mindset manifestation is we can, as a human being experiencing this reality, or we should say the reality that we are projecting, because I go a lot deeper into that in my teachings, but we give meaning to a lot of things, and it may not necessarily be the truth, right? So my meaning of heartbreak, let's say, for instance, can be a different experience that maybe you experience,
Hmm.
Marissa, because you've had a different version of heartbreak in your life than
Hmm.
I have. We may feel some of the similar emotions and relate to each other. However, it's not the exact same thing. And so we oftentimes, as humans, we give a lot of meaning to something that really
Hmm.
doesn't necessarily have any meaning by itself. So blessings is one of those words that can be um, has been utilized as a
Hmm.
positive thing, is definitely something that's when we think of, let's just use another
Hmm.
word like money, for example, or abundance, I should say, people automatically relate
Yes.
it to money, right? So
And
it's
it
like
doesn't
people
have to
say,
be.
oh,
Yes.
and it doesn't have to be exactly. So
Right.
we've created this meaning of what that specific word
Hmm.
is, when in reality it doesn't have a meaning itself. So blessings has that my automatic, mind went to, because that's what I've been experiencing growing up, is like blessings is a positive thing, right?
Hmm.
And then and blessings can also be those moments what I was just talking about, where we are experiencing feelings or emotions that are not comfortable, or we're going through a process that's uncomfortable. Any person that's gone through some kind of trial or tribulation will say that at that moment when they're going through it, it didn't feel like a blessing. It really didn't, because it was like very straining to them emotionally or physically. But then as time progresses and they look back on it, they can look at it and say, oh, yeah, actually, that was a blessing, a blessing in disguise, if you've heard that
Yes.
expression before. So a blessing can it take in both ways.
Hmm. That's a good way of putting it because we each have put our spin, right, on the definition of blessing. So that already is something that we have to look at right from the beginning because we all have our own spin on that. And then it's what we perceive blessings to be. Or if you choose to use a different word, right? There are people who don't want to use that word, and that's their
Right.
prerogative. But it all goes hand in hand with abundance and with manifestation. And you're absolutely right about abundance, how many of us have placed money with abundance. And abundance is so much more. It really is so
Yes.
much more. And I think that we limit ourselves when we believe that it only is of value to us when it has something to do with monetary factors. I think that if we really look at the word abundance, um, overall, that it's so much better for us. It's so much better for
Yes.
our day-to-day existence. And I do want to ask you, because you not only have walked this path, you have overcome so much, but you actually live this on a regular basis with your podcast. Can you explain a little bit? First of all, what's the name of the podcast, and can you explain about it? Because it is a regular podcast that's been going on.
Yes, it is. Thank you for asking. So my podcast is called Back to Here with Sarita, my name, and it's called the New Manifesting Paradigm Podcast. So it's kind of a longer name. And so the inspiration behind it was back to here is really signifying back to this focus, back to the center, back to yourself, back to your breath, back to you. We have a tendency to, and this is outside of manifestation, this is just in general, we have this tendency to look outside of ourselves for love and validation and completeness
Mhm.
and all these things. We were taught very early on that the completeness part of us is going to be in getting good grades or, pleasing the parents or,
Mm.
doing the things that are expected of us. And we deter from ourselves more and more and more when we aren't authentically being in alignment with like who we are as and being very honest with who we are, so who we are as a person. And so back to here is a reminder that you get to come back to the center focus of who you are. And I added on the tagline, the new manifesting paradigm, because we have this tendency again where we are hustling and grinding, kind of going back to what I was saying about, pleasing, becoming a people pleaser, because that's so ingrained in our society to do these things to get attention and get the focus on ourselves. When in reality, all of that comes forth from us. And so we have this tendency to really try to work really hard for those certain things, for validation, for love. And we can become depleted and we become stressed out. That's why we've had such a epidemic of anxiety and stress. And thank goodness we live in a society now that is a lot more mindful around mental health, where it wasn't
Mhm.
like that, over a decade ago. And so the new manifesting paradigm is basically the way in which we can drop the need to hustle and grind for the things outside of ourselves and coming back to ourself and knowing that the power and sovereignty come from within and that we get to co-creatively create this amazing life instead of going off and doing these other things for everybody else and creating a very intentional life that's aligned with us and uh, really allows us to love what it is that we've created in our life.
Now, now that you were speaking about this, it just came to mind. I had a client recently, and we were speaking, and she was saying to me that years ago, and she was an older woman, years ago, there used to be cigarette breaks and coffee breaks. And now at work, they actually have mental wellness moment or a mental wellness break throughout the day, which has changed so many things for so many people. And I I struggle personally with the fact that I don't know how to say this. I put myself first, and I always have. And so I've always been believed by others to be selfish. And I want to address that with you a little bit because you speak so much about manifestation abundance and that we have a right to self-care and we have a right to believe we come first. And I always believed that. I don't know where it came from, possibly the way I was raised, but not that I would negate other people or I would intentionally harm other people. But I was always taught that I had to come first. I had to concern myself with me because if I didn't, how could I ever concern myself with others? And so, but there are many people who feel that that's selfish, especially when it's found in a woman. I think that there's still a stigma with that. how do you feel about that? What do you do with your clients that feel that they have to be people pleasers? They have to follow those norms that others may have set up for them.
right? I believe when we are so conditioned and accustomed to being a certain way, let's say being the person that's of service and constantly giving. I
Mhm.
was raised by a single mother, so I saw that. I emulated that. I soaked that in.
Mhm.
I saw a woman who was very depleted and gave and gave and gave. And so naturally, I picked up on that and I became that person myself. And so it's very understandable when we are conditioned to be a certain way for so long. It is easy for us to look at the opposite side of the spectrum and think that it's inconsiderate and challenging and awkward and like all these things uncomfortable because we've been so society conditioned, right? And it does sound for somebody, let's say that you maybe have the unhealthy relationship with a parent or something. And one day, you learn more about boundaries and you've been going to therapy and you're doing, all the deep stuff. And then one day you set up a boundary and you say, like, no more of this, please.
Mhm.
And so the person on the other side of that receiving the boundary will think, oh, you're selfish
Mhm.
now. Oh, like you don't care about me, right? So that's their interpretation, right?
Mhm.
They because they were accustomed to you acting a certain way.
Mhm.
And so naturally they're going to think certain things about it. And so the
Mhm.
person that is implementing the boundaries as well is in an uncomfortable state because it's new. And so for anybody that's going through that, it can be a challenge at first. But just like when you go to the gym, when you first pick up that 5 pound dumbbell, you're like, this
Mhm.
is heavy, like doing a certain exercise. 3 months, 4 months later, you're doing the same exercise, you get to
Right.
increase to that 7.5 dumbbell weight, right? So it's just acclimating and changing. And so, no, I do not believe, to answer your question, I do not believe that self care and taking care of
Mhm.
yourself, filling up your cup is selfish.
Mhm.
We have conditioned to believe that it's selfish. And especially as a woman, it's like
Yes.
I've seen these movies and things where people have asked questions like, the mother has a child, and then the mother all of a sudden, starts dating a boyfriend, and the child gets very upset.
Mhm.
And the somebody says to them, well, you forget that your mother is actually a woman too.
Mhm.
She's not just your mother, she's
Right.
actually a woman, and she has needs and she has things that she wants to express in her life and do. And so it's I think with all these different having conversations like this help break that mold in the belief that we need to entertain this stigma of doing things for self is selfish.
Yes. And it's true, and especially for women, because I think that
Mhm.
if we do hear that, or we do hear the whispers right away, many of us stop in our tracks. And then we say, well, are we being selfish? Are we only considering ourselves? And the reality is that we're not. We're really just taking a moment for ourselves, which perhaps many times we didn't before because everyone else came first, or we're led to believe that everyone else has to come first. And it is a difficult pattern to break, oftentimes. Very difficult pattern to break. And as you said, when you do try to put up boundaries, there are others who try to push the boundaries down because they're not used to it. And they're looking for the person that you were and what you did for them. And so it is a very heavy topic, and one that many people have many different opinions on, and some are more vocal than others. But having said that, I don't think that many people would turn away the idea of abundance. I think that that is easier for people to um, get behind. I think that, right? How do you feel about that? I feel that they get behind abundance more than self-care um, and taking the time to put yourself first. I think that abundance is fine because they look at it as everybody can have abundance and everybody's idea of abundance is different.
Yes, I truly believe that it is easier for people to get on board with the abundance train than it is with the with doing the self-care practices and self-love practices. I do want to shed some light on that. I grew up in the United States, so I'm very, um, I've had the experience of being in the United States. So my perception is, yes, I've traveled and gone to other
Hmm.
countries, and I've noticed being in the United States, we have this mentality that more is better, that more and more and more is better, right? And that's very prevalent with like being able to go on Amazon and like order these things very
Hmm.
easily and shopping, retail therapy is a thing. And so
Hmm.
we have this we have this perception, very instilled perception, and
Hmm.
this is where the American dream really is built on, is more is better and having more access to more is better. And but we have kind of a demented view on what more, like what
Hmm.
is more and what is better. So for instance, like our educational system is a lot different than it used to be when I was going to school. And
Hmm.
unfortunately, a lot of children don't get access to the levels of education that they used to in schooling, right? And more the
Hmm.
institutionalized schooling. So in that case, like more is not really supporting us. So when it comes to abundance, yes, a lot of people automatically go to like the money and people.
Hmm.
If, you know, if you ask any average person or anybody in that matter, like, would you want more money? I would say 99.9%
Hmm.
of the response will be yes. Yes, of
Yes.
course, I want more money, right? I want
Hmm.
more abundance. And so it's just, it's being aware of what, like, not only what abundance means, but also acknowledging that more isn't necessarily better. I had
Right.
made a post about this not that long ago on my stories where I said that manifestation doesn't necessarily mean getting more of something, right?
Right.
It doesn't necessarily mean like, oh, I want to manifest this into my life and this and this and this and like
Hmm.
all this is for me, right? It's not necessarily about that. It is the process. We get really lost in like the actual receiving and getting than the actual process itself. So it's just being mindful of seeing like, okay, if you do want more, which is totally okay to want more, and especially as a woman, we are shunned on like, oh, more is not good for us. Like we should be grateful for what we have and be
Hmm.
very like, collapsed. But then more is can be better for you because it could transform who you are as a person. So again, being mindful of like what these kind of things mean and how they fit into your life, and also acknowledging for yourself, just being very authentic to what it is that you desire and want to create into your life too.
And sometimes more brings burden. Right. I mean, I think many
Very
of us are
true.
finding, right, many of us are finding that out now, that
Yes.
more things, especially more things bring a lot of burden. Because
Yes.
what do we do with all these things, right? And do we really need all these things? And then how do we get rid of a lot of these things, because many people don't want them. And it can be a burden sometimes. And abundance doesn't have to be things. There's so much more to abundance
Right.
than things and money. But where is the line of gratitude? Gratitude for abundance or gratitude in general? I think that, well, at least from my experience and being in groups that practice gratitude and practiced manifestation and intentions, that many people felt that they could only be grateful when abundance came. And I don't know necessarily if that's the case or not. I mean, I want to be grateful for everything that I currently have and grateful for the way in which I live and great and live in gratitude. And not necessarily because I have an abundant life or because I have many things. How do you feel about that? How do you address that? Because I know that that's a big issue for many clients that I have. And of course, I have to preface, maybe some people don't know, but I am actually a psychologist and I have clients, and many of them feel that they can only be grateful if they are living in abundance. And for them, it goes hand in hand. And they feel that people that they perceive have abundance may find it easy to be grateful.
Yes, that is a really, really uh, common thing. I know that I've experienced that myself, especially with social media and people being very, very outward about what they are, the life that they are living, right?
Hmm.
And that's social media. That's how social media is very, it can be very flamboyant. It can be very in your face, like this is what I have, this is what,
Hmm.
right? And keep in mind, with social media, it is a snapshot of somebody's life. It isn't like their whole life, right? And that person has a lot of things that they're working through, right? That they may not be sharing. Most of the time they aren't sharing. People usually share like the highlights of their life. And so when it comes to, and this is kind of going back to what I was saying, is when we are it is very simple for us to see somebody else and think like, oh, it's easy for them to be grateful because they already have the thing that that they want and what I want and things like that. So it is more of a challenge sometimes when you are not seeing the life that you want to live or experiencing the life that you want to be living. And at the same time, there's always something to be grateful for. Really, there
Hmm.
is. One of the big things with my podcast, like I said, is back to here, is focusing on your breath and recognizing that you have air in your lungs. If you are listening to this episode right now,
Hmm.
you have air in your lungs. You are conscious. Even people that are in a coma, they still have
Hmm.
air in their lungs, right? They may be on life support, but they still have air in their lungs.
Hmm.
And so that by itself is something to be grateful for, right? To have the capacity to breathe,
Hmm.
to have consciousness, to have conscious awareness, to be able to move. There are people that are incapacitated and not able
Hmm.
to move like certain parts of their body. So there's always something to be grateful for. And I was taught that at a very young age because I remember sitting around Thanksgiving and we were asked as young children as we were growing up, what are you grateful for? And as a kid, it's like, I don't know what I'm grateful for. Like I just kind of rattle off stuff that I hear, like grateful for my family, grateful for my,
Hmm.
and as time went on, I remember my caretakers reminding me that if there's nothing that you can think of, be grateful for the fact you can move your fingers and
Hmm.
that you can wiggle your toes and that you can move your arms. And I thought that was silly as a child because I'm like, of course I can do that. But then as I got older and I saw people
Hmm.
that weren't necessarily able to do that, it reminded me that there's always something to be grateful for.
Hmm.
There are so many people that are going to a 9 to 5 job or some type of job that they absolutely detest and it drains the living life out of them. And believe me, I was one of those people. So I relate very heavily to this and just being so burdened and being like, if only, right? But then transferring, or I should say, making just a like a shift in your mind of what that is. What is that career? What does that job give you? It definitely gives you money in your pocket, every week or every other
Hmm.
week, right? What does that money provide you? It provides
Hmm.
you a home that you can live in, running water, electricity. Oh my goodness, there are people on this earth that don't even have those things,
Right.
right? So it's just going a little deeper and asking yourself, right? And again, there's always something to be grateful for. And I don't want to bypass anybody's like challenging times by any
Hmm.
means, but there is always something to be grateful for. And again, when you're in that state of gratitude, it actually lifts up your spirit.
Hmm.
And then, like you said so well, it expands you in a way. And again, it transmits to energies that are around us that, oh, this person is grateful for this thing that they have or this experience.
Mhm.
Let's provide them more of that.
Absolutely. And I can attest to that. It is very, very true that the more that you're grateful, the more that you express gratitude, the more that you walk in gratitude, the more that you understand just the level of abundance that you do have, you wind up becoming more abundant. And so much so
Yes.
that it spreads out exponentially, not only to yourself, but to others. And it's not a question of getting more, but it's a question of being in abundance always, I think. I mean, I find that at least for me. And of course, my abundance may be different than someone else's, but we all have a right to have abundance and to be in abundance, and it shouldn't be denied us. And I know that there are people who go through challenging times and perhaps they can't see that at the moment, but those moments are really there. In one way or another, they are really there. And I know that with your podcast, you do it on a regular basis. So I do want to let the audience know where they can hear this, because it is something that they should be listening to on a regular basis, because it can help everyone to expand. So let us know, first of all, where we can hear it and how often is it out there?
Yes, thank you for asking. So, back to Here with Sarita, the new Manifesting Paradigm podcast is on Spotify and it is on Apple Podcasts and it's also on YouTube. So, if you are more of a watcher and you like
Mhm.
videos and you like watching videos, having that in the background, they are on YouTube. So, it is a video podcast just like this.
Mhm.
So, it's all video
Mhm.
based. And then, if you're the type of person that just likes, going on a walk and listening to something,
Mhm.
then Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Spotify also, I believe, has the option where you can watch as well. So those
Yes.
are the three platforms that the podcast is on. Yes.
And now is it a weekly
Oh,
or
excuse
is
me.
it?
Yes. It is actually every other week. So episodes drop every other
Mhm.
Monday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Yes.
And now, what if someone wants to work with you? How can they get a hold of you? Do you have a website? Do you have social media um, out there for people to connect? Do you have groups on social media? What is it that you're offering people?
Yes, so I can be found on all social media platforms. Sarita Wellness, so that's SARITA WELLNESS, wellness, because I'm very much about just the whole part of
Hmm.
the being, spiritual and emotional wellness and physical wellness. And so that's on so Sarita Wellness. And so you can either send me a direct message on Instagram, I'm on TikTok as well, or on Facebook. Feel free to do that. Or you can go to my website, which is saritawellness.com, and send me a message there. I do offer these calls called frequency magnet audits. It's a time where we can sit down together, completely no strings attached, and we can chat about your manifestation journey and also just the things that may be standing in your way of achieving some of the things that you desire or want to create in your life. Again, those are called frequency magnet audits. And by all means, send me a direct message, or you can send an email to info@saritawellness.com and we can connect. I'll be more than happy to support you.
Well, I definitely will put all this information in the description box below the actual video so that people do have the way to contact you. And what about, do you have any groups that people can join on any of the social media platforms? Sometimes
Yes.
I know people have groups.
Yes, I do. So I have a group coaching program. It's a 3-month coaching program all about manifestation. So it will help you heal, just like I was explaining about the inspiration behind my podcast and
Mhm.
the old version belief of hustle and grinding and depletion to really learning how to be a intentional manifester, somebody that's embracing a lot more of the self-care and self-love and sovereignty. So it will help you heal your relationship to manifestation. It's called the Bliss Method. Like I said, it's a 3-month coaching program that'll dive really deep into supporting you in creating the life that you really desire to create. We do everything from mindset work. There's a lot of different entities within it, human design, astrology,
Hmm.
self-love, and then of course the one-on-one coaching and group coaching comes along with it as well.
And so now we're talking about all of this, and there is one thing that manifestation, the term manifestation, I did want to touch on that briefly because manifesting your desires, um, how do you feel about it? My opinion is that you have to have a call to action. You can't just manifest in the ethers arbitrarily, but there has to be some call to action on your part. How do you feel about that? Because I know that we throw these words out there, manifesting and abundance and living a life of abundance through manifestation. What's your take on all of this?
Yes, I love this question because manifestation has become a very mainstream word. It's become, and so people have this perception that it's a very woo-woo practice. And that I've even had people come to me saying, oh, according to my religious beliefs, like I don't believe in this new age manifestation. And I said, understandable. Do you mind if I explain a little bit like what this means? So manifestation, might have touched on this very briefly at the beginning, is quite literally us, our projection of what is inside of us. The projection. So I'm looking outside, I see a tree. That is a projection of what is from nature, right? So it's a
Mhm.
projection of my belief that nature actually exists, and it really
Mhm.
does, right? So manifestation has become, this is my understanding, is the words manifestation and abundance and these words that we use interchangeably have become very mainstream and popular
Mhm.
because I truly believe that there are people that consciously and subconsciously desire to create a life that is more in alignment with their beliefs, right? And so we are constantly projecting out what's inside.
Mhm.
So if our insides are feeling like incomplete and unhealed and traumatized, then our experience is going to reflect that, right? And so because there's so many people that are looking for answers and looking for solutions,
Mhm.
and that's why I believe manifestation, the word manifestation has become so common and so mainstream, is because there are people that
Mhm.
are quite literally looking for results, right? So I
Mhm.
compare that to our diet industry. There's so much information out there for the diet industry, and it's a result of so many people desiring to
Mhm.
become more fit and more like in shape and feel
Mhm.
better,
Mhm.
right? And so there's a discrepancy, of course, obviously, because there's a plethora of information in the diet industry. But
Mhm.
unfortunately, there's so many people that are just not feeling healthy and feeling
Mhm.
depleted, right? Same thing when it comes to personal development and spirituality and what quote unquote new age thinking is, people are looking for solutions, right? And so to
Mhm.
answer your question on the give me a moment because I was just about to answer the question. I forgot the question.
Mhm.
The To answer your question on the manifesting from the ethers,
Mhm.
right? Yes, there definitely needs to be human footsteps involved. Just like with the diet
Mhm.
industry, right? They market, oh, buy these super cute
Right.
clothes and like the gym memberships, right? And all these things that you can do, but a lot of people end up just sitting there and watching stuff
Mhm.
and not putting things into implementation and taking the actual
Mhm.
human footsteps, right? Same thing with manifestation, goal setting. It
Mhm.
is that, yes, there's a plethora of information, there's so much knowledge out there, and implementation, embodiment,
Mhm.
putting it into practice, putting your human footsteps into the actual thing
Mhm.
itself, because of course, universe is going to meet you, God, universe is going to meet you where you are. If you
Mhm.
are just stationary and thinking, oh, if I want to be a millionaire, let me just sit here on my couch and manifest, $1 million, right? The universe is not going to bless you with that because you have this
Mhm.
thinking that I don't need to do anything. I just get to sit here,
Right.
right? It actually takes action, exactly as
Mhm.
you're saying. It takes the human footsteps and the planning and the goal setting
Mhm.
and just the stair step, right? And
Mhm.
with that, knowing that the universe is meeting you right where you are every step of the way as well.
And so before we leave today, I'd like to see what you would tell someone who maybe is new to this or is just hearing this for the first time. Um, what words of wisdom do you have for them? Where can they start? What's the first thing that they should do?
Yes. So a lot of people will look or listen and be like, oh, must be nice to be talking about that kind of stuff. And I'm not there. Number one, you're exactly where you need to be right now.
Mhm.
That's my first words of wisdom because we have a tendency of shoulding on ourselves, being like, I should be here. I should be here. I should, know this.
Mhm.
You are right where exactly where you need to be. You are hearing exactly what you need to be hearing. And I would say that the most important thing is feeling that safety and gratitude within yourself because you can go and jump into a strategy and into, a workbook and into a coaching program and just
Mhm.
be like, okay, like tell me what I need to do, right? You show me, you give me the answers. Well, I want to remind you that the answers are right inside of you, that you have everything that you need right inside of
Mhm.
you, and you have to trust yourself. I think if somebody was to tell me that on my very beginning journey, I think it would have saved me a lot of energy and
Mhm.
time. So I just like reminding people that they have everything that they need right in front of them, in them, and that the answers do come when you're open to actually
Mhm.
receiving them as well and trusting that you know the answers and that you can channel the answers and you can receive the answers and know that those like little steps that you're taking every single day, you'll get clarity with everything that you're doing. So, yes, join the group coaching program. Yes, read that book. Yes, listen to that podcast. Yes, do all those
Mhm.
things. And also know that you've got the power within yourself too.
Mhm. And so now let me ask you this, what's next for you with all that you're currently doing and everyone that you're already helping? What's next for you? What do you see yourself doing down the line?
Yes. For me, my dream, my next dream is to be hosting international retreats. So retreats that not necessarily have to do specifically about
Hmm.
manifestation, but encompass a spiritual retreat. So anything that has to do with yoga, breath work, and just helping people move through their own process. So I would love to do those internationally and host them, bring experts
Hmm.
in and create this like experience somebody can go through and transform. So that's what I see for myself. That's the dream. That's the goal for myself. Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, sign me up. I could always use um, time for myself, time to break away. I think it's so important to
Yes.
remove yourself from your environment, go somewhere special and take the time to really think and breathe. That's how I feel.
Recharge.
Yes,
Hmm.
yes. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show today, Sarita. I so enjoyed it. I know it's just a sampling of what you do, and I uh, I want to first of all say happy holidays to you and your family,
Thank you.
and really from the bottom of my heart, thank you because we have tried to squeeze this in specifically for um, the conversation of gratitude and blessings and thankfulness. And it was such a short time that I had to be able to get in touch with you and to try to make sure that I could speak to you before the holidays because I know that so many people need this. And I know that so many people will be
Yes.
thrilled to hear this, because I think that the more we talk about this, the more that we are there for others, the more that we could all live in abundance and in gratitude, and in peace and joy.
Thank you so much, Marissa, for having me. I really appreciate it. I love sharing, all this, and I really, really hope it's supportive to your audience as well.
Well, thank you. I can't wait. Please keep us posted about the retreats and everything that you're doing. This way we can get it out there to everyone. And again, happy holidays to you and your family. And hopefully we will speak
Thank you
again
so
soon.
much. That
Thank
sounds
you.
good. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks.
You're quite welcome. Bye now.
Bye.